The smoothest speaker experiences are usually set up before the invitation even goes out. Not after they say yes, but before. Because a lot of the things that go sideways with speakers isn't the missing travel or the missing headshot and bio or the last minute changes to their presentation. It starts earlier than that. It starts the moment that you send an invitation out without being clear on what it is that you're trying to create and what it is that you're actually asking them for. So if you've been thinking a lot about your speaker lineup and looking at them as more than just a slot to fill, the next natural question is, how do I actually choose them well? Because it's really easy to get excited about someone and to see them on video and be like really wanting to work with them because you admire the things that they do. And it's easy to think, oh, they would be amazing to work with, and they might be. But before you send out that invitation, there are a few questions that you need to consider, because the decisions that you make from there are going to inform everything that's coming afterwards. The fit, the expectation, the relationship, and how much work the speaker is going to become later on. And that last one is something that a lot of people don't see coming. So I'm going to walk you through the decisions that you should be thinking about before you even send those invitations. And we'll start with the one that almost everybody skips. Most people start with the speaker, and I think that's wrong. We shouldn't be starting with who should I invite. The first question should be, what do I want the person to do for the room and the experience that I'm trying to create? Because the outcome from that question should be driving your choice, not the other way around. Say you're hosting an event for women who are going through a big transition in either business or their life. You might want them to feel more confident, more grounded, more able to trust the decisions that they're making, and more willing to trust their own judgment. That is a completely different outcome than one who is looking to scale their business or grow revenue or build out their team. And because the outcome is different, that means the speakers need to be different as well. One person serves the experience that you're creating, and another one doesn't. And neither of them is wrong, they're just not interchangeable. And that's the thing, a lot of people tend to think that speakers can be interchangeable, and they are just not. So before you start pitching out names, get honest about a few things. Like, what role does the speaker play in the day? Why are they here specifically? And what do I want my people walking away with after hearing them? And once you're clear on that, the list of people who could possibly fulfill that role for you gets a lot shorter and a lot clearer. You're no longer starting off with all the impressive people that you can think of, but instead you have a curated list of people who can do the specific job that you require. And so that kind of clarity is going to lead to another question that a lot of people don't kind of stop to consider, which is, are you building your event around a speaker or finding a speaker for your event? Both of them work, but you just need to know which one you're doing. Sometimes there are speakers that you've had your eyes on for years. Maybe you heard them at an event that you attended yourself. And you just know in your heart of hearts that if you could book them, you could build an entire event around them. And that's a completely valid way to go about things. The speaker is the spark and you build everything around that. Other times the vision comes first and you already have a theme in mind. You know exactly the type of people that you want in that room that you're creating, and you know what kind of experience you're hoping to provide. And so now you're looking for the best person who can serve that. And that's another valid way to go about the process. Where things get messy, it was when those two approaches kind of start to blur together and nobody really notices it. For instance, you can fall in love with a speaker and you bring them in early. And then you spend the next few months trying to bend your event in a way that works to include them, even though they're not quite the right fit. Or it could go the other way around. You know exactly what your people need and you have it completely dialed in. But then some big name becomes available and suddenly you just ditch the original plans and completely pivot to accommodate this big name. Again, neither of those is an automatic mistake, but they do create very different events, and you want to be choosing your speakers on purpose and not really drifting from one into the other halfway through the planning process. So just be honest with yourself. Am I planning around my experience first, or am I choosing the speaker first? Because whichever way you go, that answer is going to determine the way you go into your next steps. And so once we know what role the speakers play and which direction that we're planning from, there's one more thing we need to do before we can send that invitation out. A little bit of homework. One of the easiest mistakes you can make is believing that a speaker who looks great on paper is going to be great for your event. Sometimes they are, and sometimes they really aren't. And it's really worth knowing that difference before you commit to them with contracts. When you're sizing up your speaker, don't just stop at their website or their super polished bio. Go watch clips of them speaking. You've got YouTube. Chances are, if they're really great speakers, somewhere on YouTube there is a video. And when you watch those videos, look at how the audience is responding to them. Notice how people engaged with them. Talk to people who have actually worked with them and had them as a speaker at their event. That last one is probably the most valuable thing you can do, and sometimes the most overlooked one. Because what a speaker looks like on stage is only part of the process. What they're actually like to work with is the other part. And it matters just as much when you're hosting your event. Some speakers are genuinely a pleasure to work with. They're responsive, they send back what you need, they make your job easier. Others can create a lot more work for you than you would have thought for them to be on stage for 45 minutes. And that's the kind of information that you want to know in advance before you're completely locked in. And this isn't about being skeptical or treating people like a risk. It's about being fully informed about the decisions that you're making. Because the goal isn't just finding someone who can speak. The goal is to find someone who can serve your audience and be a part of the experience that you're creating, both on stage and behind stage. And speaker decisions are just one corner of a much bigger picture. A lot of what shapes an event is really stuff that you can't see while you're already in planning mode. So if you're putting together an event right now and you want to get a read on where things are solid and where you might want a little more attention, I have a free assessment called the Event Pulse Check. It takes only a few minutes and it'll give you your results right away. This way you can catch the soft spots while there's still plenty of time to catch them. You can find the link down in the description. Now there's one more thing that really shapes the speaker decision whether we want it to or not, and that is your budget. And underneath budget, there are 2 questions you want to ask before you even bother to reach out. The first is, what are you asking of this person? And the second is, what are you offering them in return? Getting clear on those 2 things will help prevent a lot of surprise friction that could come up. So let's put ourselves in the speaker's position for just a moment. Imagine getting an invitation and it says, "We'd love to have you speak in our event." And okay, that's lovely, but it leaves a lot of things unanswered. Like, how long is the session? What is the format? Is there a planning call? Am I traveling? What are the dates? What's going to be expected from me beforehand? Now compare that to an invitation that says, "We'd love to have you come and give a 45-minute keynote on this topic," followed by a 15-minute Q&A. We'll do one planning call ahead of time, travel is included, and here's a full event overview. That right there is so much easier to say yes to. The speaker can make a real decision because they're seeing what a real opportunity is instead of a barely sketched out one. And honestly, it says something about you too. It tells them that you, the person who is hosting, actually has your act together. This is also where budget comes into play, because the budget decides what's realistically on the table before you get attached to anyone. Because some speakers come with some extras built in. Travel preferences like first class, business class only, or private jet. Hotel expectations, green room requirements, appearance fees, production requests, stage setup, and sometimes it runs the other directions. For instance, in a lot of corporate settings, if you're having some of your clients come to speak, a lot of them can accept payment, or even for you to pay for their accommodations. So in instances like that, you may want to offer up a donation on that person's behalf to a charity of their choice as some form of compensation in a way, or a way to just acknowledge and thank them for being a part of your event. The point isn't that every arrangement will look the same. They won't. The point is knowing what you're asking for and knowing what you're able to offer before the conversation even starts. That way, you're not scrambling to figure it out mid-conversation. So here's what ties this all together. The hosts who create great speaker experiences aren't scrambling their way through it. They're making very important decisions before that invitation even goes out. Questions like, what is the experience they're trying to create? What role each speaker has, whether the fit is right, what they're asking for, and what they're offering in return. That kind of clarity makes for better invitations, better relationships, and a better event all the way around. But here's the term. Once a speaker says yes, a completely new and different type of work begins. We're talking bios, headshots, travel, hotel accommodations, session details, planning calls, all the things that quietly pile up once the invitation has been accepted to event day. And that's exactly what's coming up next. Because finding the speaker feels like the hard part right up until they say yes. Click the video on your screen and I'll show you what happens after that.